Hello, this is Patrick Barnard in Montreal with another short commentary about a book. The date is January 19, 2021. It is a Sunday. It happens to be the day when the fragile truce between the Palestinians and the State of Israel has in fact taken hold. Three captives of Hamas, Israeli captives, were released today, and it is said that by the end of today, this Sunday, 90 Palestinian prisoners will be freed. Now, it so happens that I've just finished this important short book published by the Other Press in New York with the very important and telling title, What Does Israel Fear from Palestine? The book is by Raja Shehadeh. He's a very, very well-known Palestinian Christian and human rights lawyer and activist. He founded the organization Al-Haq, or The Truth, the human rights organization, Palestinian one, in 1979. He also won Britain's George Orwell Prize for prose writing in 2008 for the book Palestinian Walks, which told about the walks that he would take in the area of the West Bank where he grew up. And those walks became more and more dangerous because of Israeli settlers and because of the Israeli army and because of all the rules and restrictions that hamper and constrain Palestinian life. Now, the central event, as this book unfolds, the central event in Mr. Shehadeh's life, as with so many of other Palestinians, in fact, all of them, was what's called the Thenakba, or the catastrophe. That was the forced ejection and flight of 750,000 Palestinians from their homes when the State of Israel was created in the midst of terrible conflict and war in 1948. But Mr. Shehadeh was born not in the family home of Jaffa, where the oranges come from, but in Ramallah in 1951, 3 years after the Nakba, the catastrophe. And as he says in this book, the Nakba was the most central and formative experience of my life. The book covers a lot of detail, a lot of important material from the human rights point of view, but the answer to the question in the book is supplied at the very end. So the question is, in the title, what does Israel fear from Palestine? And the answer in Mr. Shehadeh's words is as follows, quote, the very high human and material cost of the war in Gaza proves that what Israel fears from Palestine is Palestine's very existence, unquote. Now, in the first half of this book, Mr. Shehadeh says that the major obstacles of peace in the area, in his view, consists of three things. First of all, peace would mean, he says, a reconfiguration, that's the word that he uses, of the myth of Israel's foundation. As you probably know, the famous phrase of a land without people for a people without a land is the one that was applied by Zionists to Israel/Palestine. But of course, there was a land there before the Zionist settlers came, Palestine. There was a people there, the Palestinian people. So peace, says Mr. Shehadeh, would mean changing the myth of Israel's foundation. The second barrier to peace, says Shehadeh, is the growth of Israel's defense sector, which is very, very powerful and which has an interest, he says, in conflict. So there's that dilemma. And then the third thing that he stresses is what he calls the messianic trend in Israeli politics, the idea, and these are his words, that the land is their God-given patrimony, and as such may not be relinquished. So the view that Mr. Shehadeh puts forward is that Palestine's very existence must be acknowledged by the Israelis, and that this is very, very difficult psychologically for them to do. Now, the book concludes with a bleak but very eloquent message, and I'm going to read it to you. So this, I think, is really what he is saying at the very end. For the majority of Palestinians who are not part of Hamas, for those Israelis who could only watch with dismay at what their government was doing, powerless to stop the horror, for those of us who know with unshakable certainty that the only future is for the two peoples to live together, the future might seem bleak. And yet, looking back, says Mr. Shehadeh, at the history of the region, it is only after great upheavals that hopeful consequences follow.